Welcome.
It's good to be here. I'm looking for a good man for my niece. I'm accepting applications, but I want to warn you, I'm going to check you out. It's such a pleasure being here and being with my good friends, the Camerons, and it seems like I've known them for a long time. And I consider him a brother, a blood brother. And I will go extreme lengths to see that he completes the mission that God has set for him. And that's to build this church. A church that's going to grow and grow and grow. And we started yesterday training people with the idea that all things can be accomplished with God. You know, in my life, I've had two people that's died for me. And I want to share the story of one of them. And of course, one is Jesus Christ. But when I was in the Army, I was a battalion commander in Vietnam, the 501st Airborne Battalion, 82nd Airborne. I was mean. I was tough. And the sergeant major came to me one day and he says, "Colonel, we've got a man that every time a shot's fired, he voids in his pants." I said, "Do what?" He said, "Voids in his pants." I said, "I know what that means, but not a man in the 82nd Airborne." He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Send him in." He came in and I looked up. He was 6'4", very, very black, skinny. And I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Sir, my name's John Oliver." I said, "John, sit down." I said, "Let's talk about this thing. Why are you afraid?" He said, "I'm afraid." I said, "John, I've been here 3 times before. I've been wounded 4 times. I've got 4 Purple Hearts. I've got the Distinguished Service Cross. And let me tell you, every time a shot's fired, I'm afraid too." And he said, "I can't help it." I said, "Okay, wait outside." I got the sergeant major and I said, "Give him a job back in the battalion so he can adjust to combat." So the next morning I walked out. John Oliver was my Jeep driver. I said, "John, run down to the supply tent, get another pair of trousers." He said, "What for?" I said, "Well, if you void in one, change, and then we'll just keep on going." And then I had to have him and the sergeant major live in the same little hut that I was in, because if I had to leave at night, I wanted to be able where to find them. And we started talking. And he told me that when he was born, his daddy left his mom. And they were from Charleston, South Carolina. And I said, "Wow." And we kept talking, and he would share things with me. And one day we were out in the field visiting some of the companies of the battalion, and he said, "I know what I want to be. I want to be a preacher." I said, "Okay." I said, "Here's one of the little Gideon Bibles. From now on, when I go to the troops, I want you to say a prayer and talk from the Bible." Now, after I'd done that, I was a little concerned, because I was setting him up for faith. But when he read the Bible and he talked, I said, "This can't be my John." And then we had 10 of 1968, and we were called back to provide security to the airfield. And on the top of my Jeep, I had a map, and I had all 4 company commanders, the S3, sergeant major, and myself. And we were going over the map trying to find the best place to bring the helicopters in, because we had to make 5 lifts. Now, being an airborne commander, I'm the first person on the ground and I'm the last person to leave. So if you do that, it's going to take about 40 minutes. That means that the enemy would be prepared for that last helicopter lift. So we're sitting there, and then a little pile of trash about as far as from here to the table from him. The brush passed, a man jumped up, he had a satchel charge, that's 1 kilo of composition B. And he pulled it and he threw it. Now here, all these brave, regular Army officers stood there and looked at it. Somebody jumped on it. And it went off. And I turned John Oliver over. And he said, "Dad," and I said, "Yes, my son." He said, "Please forgive me." And I said, "Forgive you for what?" He said, "I wanted to be the man that you wanted me to be." I cried. I put him on the helicopter with me when we left to send him back to his mama. After everything settled down, we had a memorial service for him. And then the officers wanted to talk to him in the back room. They said, how can somebody that voids in his pants every time a shot's fired jump on something like that and give his life for us? I said, I don't know. And then 11 years later, when I accepted my call to be a pastor, I found out an amazing thing. All of those officers had become pastors and priests and a rabbi. Isn't it amazing what the love of one man can do, especially when he's walking with Jesus? And of course, the other man that gave his life for me is Jesus Christ. What a wonderful, wonderful present. Gave me a new life. And I was thinking, what is a good scripture to use at this church? And I thought about one of my favorite scriptures in the book of Acts. It's the 4th chapter. And this is where, let me read verses 5 through 9 with you. Now, we normally stand up at home, but there's lots of old folks here, and if you want, you can just keep seated. At my church, I was one of the youngest people there. Okay. Acts chapter 4, and I want to start with verse 11. This is when Peter is challenging the Sanhedrin, and he said, Jesus was the capstone that you builders rejected, which has become the cornerstone. Salvation is found in one and no one else. For there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. When they saw the courage of Peter and John, they realized they were unschooled, ordinary men. They were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus.